It's been a minute since I've been able to say this word as a game I'm about to play. Gigantic. Right. 7 years ago, I on Rain Day Gaming covered this, and the video went out to wide reception 200,000 plus views, and three other videos of about 20 to 40,000 views each. People clearly were fascinated with what Motiga at the time was doing for publisher Gearbox. Now, at that time, though, Overwatch was well into its stride. A year after being released, Gigantic had a lot to compete with, and it would turn out that over that time, Gigantic would not be able to keep steam. Ultimately, after a year going down and kind of sunsetting, everyone thought that maybe this hero shooter MOBA type game was over and would never come back. But last year, we got an email that gave us a little bit of a hint that something was in the works. A playtest offer, just a day to experience Gigantic again. While it struck us as odd, and I, not even able to join, said, you know what, I'll wait and see what this looks like. Last week, I was able to actually get another invite, and this time for real, to play the game and a launch date for Gigantic. April 9th, 2024, this game is coming out to PC, PS5, and Xbox X and S consoles. And I cannot wait to walk you through some of the gameplay I captured over this last day in their playtest. Now, one of the more interesting elements about Gigantic is that it was always a cross between a hero shooter and a MOBA. So if you're wondering, what does that even mean? It means that, like in Smite, where you had a third-person perspective and you were doing a lot of the actions of your characters, versus in League of Legends, where the characters are being viewed at from up above, a top-down perspective, you feel much more in the thick of battle. The other element about it that I thought was pretty interesting is, even looking here too, when you see these characters, instead of just throwing abilities down, you notice a lot of them have a crosshair. They have weapons, and you can see even the builds going on, which reminds you of Paladin. So a hero shooter where, even though it's in third person, provides you with a shooting experience, provides you with different abilities, different builds, different upgrades you can do for your characters, and each skill, whether it's your left mouse button, your main click, your right click, which is kind of your secondary option, your F, which is your ultimate if you're playing on keyboard, your movement, which is your Q, all of these little elements, or your E, excuse me, all of these little elements go in and can be affected up to 1, 2, 3 different times with different styles of play. I just have to say that this game has caught me by surprise, coming back the way that it has. And also, I think the gameplay is also suited for people who want to jump in and just have fun in a shooter type strategic vibe. And I think that's where this game has a chance where it didn't really before. See, one of the problems with Gigantic is its timing. Overwatch was the king at the time, and even Paladins, who had taken a little bit of that market, was nowhere near the behemoth in terms of support, funding, eyes, viewership that Overwatch had. So many channels grew and became who they are today because of that game's launch. And Gigantic, like Battleborn, was trying to fit into that beautiful little scene where people who like, shooters, they like strategy, but it's not quite a payload pusher FPS experience, because let's face it, you can't compete with some of the 3D models that Overwatch put together. Some of the money that was going from an acclaimed studio like Blizzard and, of course, Activision, the ability to take those things and turn them into high-quality AAA products. At Hi-Res Studios, I was working on Paladins at that time as a full-time employee, not only producing videos, but also casting our Pro League. And it was always amazing to see how Gigantic took from some of the elements, but really kept its own lane. So what they had decided was, we can't beat them. Let's not join them. Let's make our own thing. And that's certainly what they did. Unfortunately, at that time, though, as a free-to-play entry, there just wasn't enough money made. And Gigantic has always had a very interesting system of grinding through different things that you need with the in-game currency to allow you to do different activities and tasks that ultimately would make you get unlocks of the various creatures, the various characters, and things that you can have access to in the game. The problem was, on Steam, it debuted to about 8,000 people, and by the time it was fully sunsetted, it had about 200 people playing. This meant that it looked like Gigantic was over forever. But one of the interesting things about this comeback is that a brand new studio has actually been put in to take place of producing this game, Abstraction Games. And you may know them from a few other titles, but Abstraction Games has now taken this title, which was created by Motiga, still under Gearbox, and revamped it to provide crossplay, 2 new legends, 2 new maps, and also give you a new experience for price tag. Gigantic will launch at $20. And that is maybe the biggest gamble yet that I've talked about. We know that looking at the gameplay, this is super fun. I think people, when you see this, and especially on TikTok Live, where I was streaming at Rainday Gaming, or twitch.tv/Rainday, I found myself having every person who came in ask me 2 questions. Is it free? Where can I play it? And what is this game? Because it captures your heart, your fantasy, your mind. And I think any game that does this kind of cel-shaded fantasy style shooter well has a chance. But here's where they're really taking a gamble. They're going for an audience that you couldn't compete with in Overwatch, who had the paid audience. $60, you're not going to get a lot of regions playing that game en masse because it's just an expensive title. $20, though, is enough to probably convince a few people, especially console users who traditionally monetize better than PC users. That's a fact for many of you who don't know, that I learned back at working at Hi-Res. To maybe say $20. This seems like it might be worth it and give me a lot of playtime. And to be fair, for a lot of games out there, this would probably get you a good amount of value for $20. So with all of the games having record success, can Palworld launched to really be something that everyone finds valuable? Well, here's that big question that I'll probably answer as we take a look at some of the numbers they'd have to earn to make sense of that towards the end of this video. But right now, let's just even talk about what you're seeing, the gameplay, and what is Gigantic. Many of you have never seen this game before, and it may look a little odd, but it's very simple. You have 2 guardians from each of the houses that you'll be represented, thrown on either side randomly with random teammates as you queue in. I'm doing a mode that is a simplified classic version, and it makes it faster, easier to get into battles, get into action, and play different characters, which for a casual audience, whether on console or whether on PC, will be working wonders. The traditional mode has bigger maps, takes a lot longer, more drawn out fights, and some pretty epic moments, because you can see the time to kill in this game is long. It takes a while to take someone down, so you're not going to be getting a headshot, 360ing, and running off to do it again. You are going to have to spend time and use your abilities, use movement, use cover, and use teammates and strategy to ultimately win, which makes it a very cool game with MOBA and hero shooter elements. Now, here's what happens during the gameplay. You will get points over the course of getting kills on enemy players or capturing objectives around the map. You'll have different areas on your side of the map that can provide you boons and buffs, like this character on the right you just passed, that if you fight near will actually heal you and one of your teammates for a while, but it can also at certain points become vulnerable and be destroyed. Funny thing about this, which I won't get into, is there are different characters you can decide going into those zones. So maybe you want a Cerberus or a more offensive type character, a volcanic type Cerberus. You can actually put that there instead of the basic healing character that goes there on those side nodes. All in all, your nodes will become vulnerable, and so will the enemies. And as you fight and build up pressure around the map, get kills, you will earn points by stealing the nodes and the area, capturing, so to speak, the areas on your enemy side and getting kills, doing well in damage. Once you do that, if you get 100 points before the enemy team, your house champion will fly over and attack the other house's champion, pinning it down, giving you and your teammates a chance to go and do tons of damage to them. And as you can see, we've had a ton of damage done to ours as well, and we've been trying to get, of course, damage done to theirs. So it's been one of those things. On that top bar, you can see not going well in terms of the house damage too much. They've done a lot of house damage to us. We've done just a little bit, and they've just got our house again. So we're on a defensive phase. I'm getting healed up by that kind of defensive safe area for me and the Guardian that we chose. But look at our top left bar. That is our house Guardian. That is getting melted right now based on all the damage that they are doing. They've got the assassin character Trip in there, and they are just totally willing to die. They've almost killed our Guardian. It is recovered, but look at how low that is. So now this next phase is going to be very, very important. Like I said, this is Rush. It's a lot faster. So you'll have similar types of things like this happen over the course of all of your games that you play Gigantic, which to me is very, very fun. I love a game where I can be individually successful, obviously show off some shooter skills, but also be able to work as a team and know, hey, maybe I should have played better or more with my squad to get the win. And it means that with the 4 different types of classes, support, range DPS, melee DPS, and frontline, you will be able to choose how do you want to focus on helping the team. Do you want to be able to provide frontline and more boss focus, helping to create and hold down zones? Or do you want to be more of a solo damage dealer from range, or maybe up close? Or maybe you want to be in the back line, helping to really make the right moves and get those heals off to the players that matter. Now, two things that make me feel like this game has a chance. One, the $20 price tag is pretty important. Because they had no raw revenue, it's a huge investment for a game like Gigantic and many studios that launch free-to-play to come out and just say, I hope people spend money. That is rough. A $20 entry price tag and entry price tags are becoming more and more valuable at this lower rate, with offering microtransactions later to try to make up the difference of traditional studio costs. The difference about Gigantic, though, is the money has already been sunk into it. There's been a lot of money put into this game, and from what I'm playing right now, it looks like a few things have been revamped, a few things have, maybe been optimized, but seriously, it feels like the exact same game that I played in a good way. It was good back then. It's still really good now, but it feels like a very similar gameplay. So it's not like a brand new engine or this huge torque that would have cost tons of money. Seems like a pretty good investment. Now, what happens is $20 at an entry. If we have 1 million players, that's $20 million that this game has just made. And 1 million players may sound like a lot, but I feel like every single day we are seeing new games hit 1 million players and plus. Palworld just hit 25 million players, and that is at a $34, $36 game, I think, something like that. Incredible stuff. Just did a Twitch Rivals with Palworld. That was fun. So all in all, I'm here to say that I think Gigantic has an opportunity to not only recoup some of those losses, but prove valuable. My questionable thought, though, and I may do this on a separate video, is there are no microtransactions. So you can earn everything in this game. All of those characters, all those things I talked about, you pay your $20 and you earn the rest through play. Will that work out good for them? Will people pay enough of the $20 for that to matter? And will there be enough parity? Sometimes people who spend money on the game like having a bit of a boost if they're not going to play that much, so they can keep up with those hardcore grinders. In this type of situation, you might have someone who actually grinds a ton and is obviously unable to, put themselves in a position where with that grind, is ever losing to someone who hasn't grinded, doesn't have all those good level characters at the very end. You guys can see this kind of closing out. I had a really good game right there, 16K for Beckett, which is one of the beginner characters. But I wanted to show you this as well, which is kind of to me, a very important element of this footage, which is that there is so much to this game to help you get going. And there are so many pieces of depth that I think when you watch this gameplay, you'll notice that was just Beckett. There are 2-3 different styles of builds you could play for Beckett. But when it comes to characters like this, T-Mat, who the robot plays completely differently, has stuns, has AoE projectiles, as well as single target range focus with a hit scan look-like weapon. It's very, very easy for you to find a different style that, even if the one you first tried doesn't work out for you, ends up being much, much better. I'm sorry, I might have put that just a little bit too high in terms of the audio. That should be better for you guys as well, just to get right to around here. So what does it mean for the future, and what does Gigantic need to do to be successful in my eyes? I think it's simple. I think Gigantic needs to come out and be a game that gets at least that initial player base and, well, good reception. This is a game that I think if we see people like Shroud, people like some of these more, not hardcore FPS players, but I think general FPS kind of variety players like Lyric is a great kind of streamer that I think if he takes a look at this, if we see some positive spin on this from a general, I think this could be a game that actually succeeds and definitely hits their target markets for what they're hoping for in terms of budget and money. But I am worried that maybe we are in a phase of there's just a lot of other games people are playing as well that are not in the action hero genre. That was the problem back then. There was a lot of games that were taking over the player base who would play this in Overwatch, and I just don't know if we have the real player base yet that is going to fully set in and love this game the way that I loved it, the way that so many people love it, to keep it alive for good. But I am certainly hoping that they will. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Gigantic? Will you pick it up and play it? Are you thirsting for a game like this that's more strategic but also has those shooting and individual elements? Let me know in the comment section below, because I certainly cannot wait to play this again, and I cannot wait to share it with you more as we continue to go down this list. Remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and I will see you all next time.